I'm in New York in August 2006. Well, I'm only here 2 days, but I'm having what might be regarded as a very artistic time in New York. The art scene in New York, which was roughly the decade from the early 60s to the early 70s, was full of parties and openings and all the artists knowing each other and mingling with the other hoi polloi, not the hoi polloi, far from the hoi polloi. They were mingling with the poets and the writers and the theatre people and the film people and all the rest of it. It was a great scene. I guess there were probably 2,000 people altogether, which sort of, you know, just flowed around the art openings and the galleries and the parties and the stuff like that. It was fascinating. And one of the people who's been covering that scene forever is an old friend of mine called Valery Ostianu. So on another tape, what I did today was I went to see his show, which is a collection of collages. And it's collages by all kinds of fascinating people and in all kinds of ways. And as he says, collages have changed immensely with people using all kinds of different styles and mannerisms and so on. And so I focused on him, both his collages and his other work, and all these other people like Ray Johnson, who was probably one of the earliest in New York to do an avant-garde artist who was much revered since he died, and even before was much admired. At any rate, to get not too far away, I'm staying with he, among other things, has done what I think is probably one of the best of the Warhol books, which is not only about Warhol, but a silver cover, and is about the factory types. I forget the exact title, but we'll get to that later. Life at the Factory or something, but it shows all the scene around Warhol and so on. And today I called my old friend Christo, or rather Christo and Jean-Claude, and said I was in town and could I see him for a few minutes, because I've known them for 30-something years too. And Jean-Claude said, oh, if you're not doing anything tonight, can you come over? Come over for dinner at 7:30 and bring whoever you're staying with. So I said, okay, great. So I'm on the way there very soon. And it's their usual Stephen's collection of art books. I should say that I consider the Christos to be the #1 artist in the world. They are international, they are internationally known, and so far as I know, they are only artists with grand concepts that do things in all kinds of different countries, i.e. Australia and where else? Germany, France, the Pont de Neuf they wrapped in France. Oh, they don't like the phrase wrapped. I don't know how else to describe the stuff apart from covered, but they don't regard what they do as wrapping, but everybody refers to Christo as the guy who wraps things. When I last came here and saw Christo and Jean-Claude, the walls were covered with the Gates sketches, which had not yet taken place, but they then took place much later on, fortunately. And now I'm here, and the Colorado project, which is how many years away would it be now, would you say?
We hope to be ready by the year 2010 at the earliest.
Now, very important thing, John, to know that all our projects, they're season projects. They
Right.
happen in a particular year of the season of the year. The Gates project was the winter project because we like to have a lively street that you can see through the lively street, the Gates.
Right.
Over the River project is the summer project. We'll ask for permission for 14 days between July 15 and August 15, a summer.
When the rafters,
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that was you in the boat?
No,
No.
some
I mean
people
that-
on the boat.
when
Oh.
the rafters
Right.
can enjoy the work of art.
Oh, yeah, I
There
see.
are two
Right.
visions. If you come here now, you can
How big an area will it cover?
The two visions.
We show you the area.
Okay.
Okay, now come closer.
Right, okay.
This is the
Here's the map.
section of the state of Colorado. This is Denver, Colorado Springs. Got Denver here.
Where's the nearest city to this, by the way, to locate it for people?
Denver.
Oh, okay, right, well, okay.
The second is the second largest city in Colorado. Colorado Springs is here.
Right.
Now we're using from here to here, which is about 60 miles of Arkansas River.
40 miles.
40 miles of Arkansas River.
I see, okay.
To install.
Well, Christo said 60 because
it's kilometer.
we
We are
always have to say kilometers,
Oh, yes,
miles.
right.
Okay, 40 miles of Arkansas River to install 6.9 miles, near
Right.
7 miles of fabric panels in many, many locations.
Wow,
A
covered.
lot of interruption. Come
Wow,
here.
wow, okay.
Chérie, viens. Okay, here's the view from above.
Right.
You see, when you drive on the road, the Highway 50 here, here's
Right.
Highway 50, you will see the waves of fabric, silver of fabric, the fabric panels way above the water. This is the real
Oh, there
fabric.
it is. Oh,
The real
fabulous.
fabric.
I remember you once sent me some of the stuff you used in Biscayne Bay, that plastic stuff.
Yeah,
I did
no
it on my
plastic,
show
it's
in
fabric.
Dublin.
Not
It's
that,
woven,
it's
it's
fabric,
woven.
Yeah.
Woven.
And also,
Oh, right.
also in Biscayne Bay wasn't plastic.
Oh,
it was
it was
woven
pink.
fabric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, John, if you look carefully, from above, it's only waves of silvery fabric.
I see.
But-
Right.
When you come down,
From
Right.
underneath, have a look. From underneath,
Ah, right.
the rafters will see the clouds and the
Ah,
contour
yes, I
of the
see.
mountains.
Right, I see. Beautiful.
now
Okay.
how we know that, John?
Right.
Because all our projects they're unique, meaning that we'll never do another gates, we'll never surround another islands with pink fabric, we'll never build another umbrellas or any fence.
Right.
Each project is unique, but we do not know how the project they look, and also we don't know how to be built it. Our engineers especially don't know how to do this project. This is why a secret place, far away from the Arkansas River, we're doing life-size tests. And we did it 4 life-size tests, and we will show you now the 4 life-size tests done in the late 90s, and to learn how the gates, how the over the river will look. Look, this is the real
Ah,
photo.
yes.
See Jean-Claude standing here. This is the real fabric panel. We have 5 fabric panels with the real size. See how they look with the wing and how they look underneath.
And how far in advance do you actually make this fabric? I mean, is it in process now, even though you...
No. First, we need to get the permission.
Yeah, right,
Now,
right.
I'll explain you some very important thing. Should you hear?
Go ahead, darling.
This is the section of our project. Now, this is the fabric panels. Show them. You see how the fabric panels change?
I see,
Width
yes.
of the fabric panels vary with the width of the water. And they are absolutely custom made. And when they have a turn like that, we need to fabricate a trapezoid fabric panels. This is why we're using 950 fabric panels, and they will be all custom made.
Right.
Yeah.
One moment, John. I pass around.
Okay. The distance between the water and the fabric is minimum 8.5, 10 feet.
Right.
Of course, sometimes they're much higher. But the cables go much further away. And of course, the banks of the river, they're not always the same height. They will be inclined because one bank of the river is taller than the other bank of the river. Now, our big work is to get the permission. And this is how we are working with the federal government in Washington, because an entire section of our project is owned by the Department of Interior Bureau of Land Management.
Oh, right.
We need to get permission from BLM, Washington. We need to get permission from the state of Colorado, 2 counties of Colorado, Fremont and Chaffee County, and of course 11 governmental agencies and 2 private companies.
Are you meeting kind of bureaucratic frustrations and stuff like you usually do with these things?
Oh, yes, we
Yeah, yeah.
Enjoying.
Now, everything we are telling you can be found much better and in good English without the French accent and the Bulgarian accent on our website.
Yeah, I look there, yes,
Our
right.
whole life is on the web, and it is
Right,
www.ChristoJeanClaude in one word .net.
right.
There all the facts are.
I'll look it up again when I get back. I felt that, you know, you remember that Maisley's movie of when he did The Pont de Neuf?
Oh,
I
yeah.
felt that that was the best single movie that explained an artist's work I had ever seen. Because it showed all the bureaucracy that you had to master and the people he had to deal with and all the frustrations and length of time. Fascinating, I thought, you know. But I've come to, I think most people maybe have come to associate that with you, that you will fight through any length of things, any problems, and deal with them, and that is part of your art, just dealing with the problems on the way to it, you know.
The process of obtaining the permit is part of the art.
Yeah, right.
Of course, it's not the aim.
No, of course.
Because I'm a woman, I will give you an example relating to women. The 9 months of pregnancy
Right.
is very important process to have a baby. but it's not the aim.
No,
Any
right,
normal
right.
woman will tell you being pregnant 9 months is not the aim.
Well, the aim is to carry out the vision, whatever cost and whatever time, you know.
After 9 months, finally she can see the baby, and after X amount of years, 25 years for the Radreichstag, 26 years for the gates in Central Park, then we could see our baby. It was there.
Right.
The process is extremely important. It is part of the work of art, but it's not the aim.
Are you aiming to complete a date for this, or is it too early to even think of a date yet?
What?
Earliest will be is the summer project. Earliest will be in the summer of 2010.
Oh, okay.
If we are very lucky.
Right.
Because even by the end of next year we can get the permission, we'll be lucky.
We have already spent $4 million for Over the River.
Right.
We don't even have the tail of the shadow of the idea of a permit.
Right. Well, last question. Well, we're talking today, I was talking to Valerie today, who's an expert on data and all that stuff. We were talking about influences, you know, and we talked about, who is it that I was talking about, you know?
Duchamp.
Duchamp, right? And I said, well, who influenced Duchamp? And we figure that everybody obviously is influenced by somebody. So can you point to any influence in your early days in art?
There are many influences, but you know, it's very simple to the one artist. But certainly, my education and my family was the biggest influence. I have great parents, mother and father. I was very young, and since age of 6, my mother hired a private tutor, and I started learning art, painting, sculpture, drawings, and scale models. And since age of 6, I tried to be artist.
Can you imagine how intelligent his mother was?
Yeah, right.
But she did not give him violin teacher or piano teacher, but an art teacher at age 6.
And of course,
Right.
another important thing. I was study in Bulgaria. In Bulgaria, to become an artist, you go to the very conservative school. And to be artist, painter, sculptor, architect, you go to the same school. And you study 8 years. The first 4 years, you study everything. I study architecture, painting, sculpture. Even I have 4 semesters of medicine, make body dissection of human body.
Right.
And of course, when I escaped from communist country to the West, I was my 4th years. After 4th year study, you decided to be architect, painter, sculptor. And I escaped.
But he left.
Right.
Yeah.
So he never decided. That's why our work has so many different elements.
Yeah.
Architecture, urban planning, sculpture, painting.
You see, this is probably the biggest influence.
Inside our work. Because we never decided.
That's great. Well, I didn't keep you too long, you see.
Okay.
First Avenue and 9th Street. I'm about to take the crosstown bus and go back uptown. It's Saturday afternoon, about 4 o'clock. Looking down First Avenue, and over there is Tompkins Park, scene of many a hippie enclave years ago, gathering, pot smoking, complaining about something or other, protesting the war, the Vietnam War we're talking about. One thing New York is rarely short of, except when it rains, are taxis. Dozens going by all the time. Under Bloomberg's regime, they just added a whole bunch. The medallions, which is what makes them legal, now change hands for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And some fleets have dozens of cabs, and each of the drivers working for whatever it is, 150 a day or something meager enough. I was just about to give up and I caught sight of the bus in the distance. The crosstown bus, 9th Street, east to west, 8th Street, west to east, i.e. from the village east is 8th Street bus. I have to change to the shuttle at 42nd Street, I forgot that.
Very good. More fun. I broke the Dragon 5. This is a
I should never have gotten stoned with Valerie because I totally forgot you have to take the shuttle. I'm really disoriented, but now I think I'm on the right track. I've remarked many times that Target are the best advertisers on television, but they do a lot of this kind of thing. They blanket places. They once took an entire issue of the New Yorker, and every ad in there was Target. They're very clever and very imaginative, and I have no idea who their agency is, but they must be rich by now. So all around this entire concourse are Target ads. Every ad here is a Target ad. Interesting, though. Even near the ceiling. From the line on the east to over to get the shuttle, it's really a long walk. Of course, you're going underneath part of the 42nd Street Manhattan, and it's a long walk to cross town. You cross part of the town with the walk and the rest with the shuttle. And one of the brilliant things about this series of ads, of course, is you never see a word on any of them. Never the name. Well, there's a word, but it certainly is not Target. I thought he was going to hit me, but all he did was ask me to stop taping. We're going past some repair work, and I just missed the dramatic part in which a guy was drilling away and sparks were flying everywhere. Trouble is, it makes the express as slow as the local.
God told Noah that it's gonna rain, but when he told him to bring nobody said, you don't wanna say it won't be a water, hello, say it won't be a water, but fire and light. Have a nice day and smile, New York, it won't mess up by the riverside. Keep me on my burning up, down by the riverside, down by the riverside.
They got off the train at this stop, now they're going through the dumpster. Subway sign. If you see something, say something. I got off the train at 110th Street. It was too far east. However, it is right by the edge of the Central Park Lake here, with all the ducks around, so here's my mandatory piece of wildlife that pops up in one form or another every show. So walk along the edge of the park west 3 blocks. The message is on the back of every Metro card. If you see something, say something. You see a suspicious package or some activity, report it. That's New York's slogan for Homeland Safety. If you see something, say something. This is one of the nicer neighborhoods where I'm staying. So the street stuff is pretty too. This is 110th Street, very west. Titusville in New Jersey, where my friend Caroline lives. And today we're going to go and visit some art. Actually, we're going to Princeton. And this is her pretty house. Caroline is now picking up the mail. And at the back of the house there's a nice porch here which overlooks the river. Now this is the River Delaware, and not far away George Washington crossed the river, across the Delaware. The river looks relatively low now, but it actually came up recently and literally flooded the ground floor of the house. So we've entered Princeton, and a lot of the houses around here are like this. The kind of classic sort of white clapboard, almost New England style. They're not as old as they look, but they've been built to look like they're really old. Very expensive, one assumes. We're on the Princeton campus in New Jersey. Fairly small, relatively, not as big as Harvard or Yale, of course. And these rather menacing sculptures here.
They're tigers, because you know the tiger is the emblem of Princeton University.
Now, Caroline and I used to do a book show together on Manhattan Cable. It was very short-lived, but sometimes I think we ought to have done a show about art. We're both somewhat skeptical about art. In fact, you might almost say that, well, I don't know much about art, but I know what I don't like. And this is something we both don't like. And, you know, this particular sculptor, his work sells for $1 million at a time. He's a very arrogant individual, as it happens. Okay, Caroline, what do you got to say about Serra?
This sculptor likes to do enormous steel things that he plants in very aggressive places, and he made a thing called the Tilted Arc in Brooklyn, which famously was so upsetting to all the people who live nearby that they finally removed it. This was a gift, this Serra sculpture here was a gift by a grateful alumnus of Princeton, and poor Princeton had somehow to struggle to find a place to put it. And they finally, with a lot of effort, found a bit of a courtyard that they could put this enormous steel taut object.
Why do you think he's so overrated, Caroline?
Well, I think some people feel that the enormousness of the work is in itself impressive and therefore to be respected. Some people like walking through it. We will walk through it and get a sort of feeling of excitement walking through it. To me, it does not justify the immense expense and the immense complications of getting this thing set up. The irony today is that finally this thing was put up, and most of the Princeton students hated it. They put graffiti on it, they urinated in it, and generally disliked it. But anyway, it stayed. Now, Frank Gehry, who actually is Serra's friend, is building an enormous engineering building right behind the Serra. And the Serra suddenly looks like an extremely pathetic piece of leftover demolition or construction material in the shadow of Frank Gehry's enormous building, and I love that final reward of this piece of work.
I don't know if you remember, but you know, in the course of moving his huge things around over the years, 2 people have been killed. One fell on somebody and...
Well, I mean, they're immense, you know, they're very heavy. They have to be made in Germany, which is the only foundry which will agree to make these things. They're then carted at enormous expense across the world to come here. They had to build special sort of groundwork to hold these things. I mean, and then, of course, it has to be looked after, and it just seems to me a kind of indulgence on the part of the sculptor to make such things that are not beautiful. They're aggressive, they're in your face, and they colour in a very ugly way. This rusty colour seems to me extremely unattractive, and invite all sorts of nasty things like graffiti. It's been cleaned now. But anyway, what's best for me is that it now looks completely like a piece of nothing in the shadow of Gehry's building, which we don't know what's going to look like.
Yes, and on this closely related subject, we both of us agreed when we were talking about it last night that so much of art is hype and people are conned into believing it's good because they're told it's good.
There's no way around that. I mean, you know, somebody can say, I don't like the Serra, but Serra has reached a stage in his career by clever manipulation of the press, manipulation of clients, that his work is considered wonderful. And so we can think of lots of artists like that.
He's become critic-proof, in effect,
Critic-proof, because nobody, as you say, nobody dares say anything against it in case they are seen as poor judges, poor taste, you know, in the rear guard instead of being in the avant-garde, which is where everybody wants to be.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'll swing around, we'll take another look at it.
And maybe we can walk through it a little bit.
Yes, we'll walk through it, right. As you can see, they're just huge, rusting steel walls, you know. And as Caroline points out, it blocks the view of whatever was behind it. There was a famous case in Lower Manhattan when they put one of his things up outside the Federal Building, and the people complained vociferously. They came out and they couldn't even see across the area in front of him because of this huge
Now, part
thing.
of the experience is supposed to be walking through it and feeling some unimaginable feelings.
Yeah, right. I mean, if a man from Mars came down here and walked through this, he'd think it was just a shortcut. He'd be amazed if you
Right.
told him it was art.
Right. Oh, no.
Go back down the other side, and it's just the same.
The students never loved it. The students put...
How tall do you reckon this is? About 15 feet, something like that?
High?
How tall?
Oh, yes, I think it's 15 feet high.
Right.
And part of the supposed skill is the way he torques the metal.
Right.
It's curves, you know.
I think after they had those complaints about that one in Lower Manhattan, they actually amended the law so that people could have some kind of a voice in when they built
Yes,
these bloody things
yes,
and where they
yes,
put them.
yes.
Right. And going up behind it is being constructed as the engineering building. And if you ever come here, it's located here. And here's this Princeton Stadium, big, rather attractive stadium behind it.
Designed by Raphael Vignoli, who is a very great
Right. It's not a bad stadium actually, quite well designed, quite large, and it was done only, well, I guess 20 years ago, something like that.
Less, 10.
Yeah, 10 years ago, something like that.
Museum cover there.
There's the sloping roof of that engineering building from a distance. On the way out, and I personally think it's a travesty to have something like a Serra sculpture in a place where they have a sculpture as fine and interesting as this one. They were actually done by Ruffin, Hobbs. A lot of fine buildings and a row of eating clubs at Princeton, and this one is called Cottage Club, and it became famous because it was Scott Fitzgerald's home. He sort of put Princeton on the map in some ways. I don't know what they call the one that's opposite. This house on the corner is kind of interesting, a little gloomy looking, though Caroline says it looks very nice inside. And it's sort of on this crossroad, so it's not the greatest place to live. They even considered living there for a while. We're shopping for dinner, so we stopped to get a melon at this little place here. Well, this is